And Dan Lougher is our first presenter in this session. Dan is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Western Areas, a nickel mining and exploration company. He is a qualified mining engineer with over 38 years experience in all aspects of resource and mining projects, exploration, feasibility, development, and operations. Dan is a fellow of the Australian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy. Please welcome Dan.
Geez, I'm even shorter than Natalia. Okay, thank you. And first off, no comments about the tie. I think the minister set the standard this morning, so let's all get with it. It's great today to be here. What a group. I mean, every year we think we've got the best group, but this, I think, will actually top it all. So I'm about 15 minutes into my presentation. Thank you for Vanessa. But it's a long preso, but I'll just try and skip some of the slides that of less relevance. Usual corporate little snapshot. Look, I'm not going to dwell too much about the nickel market because I think Angela's really covered off the main topics. And by the time you've listened to this fine group of people up here, I think you'll be sick and tired of NCMs, NCAs, all the rest of it. So I'll just skip through that very quickly. But there is some important points that I'd like to make there, though, which is very pertinent to Western Areas in terms of our current business. And then the main topic of today was it's all about growth. And that's where you want to be today. And I know that there are a lot of aspiring juniors and a few peer groups which are all following that same path. And then I'll finish up with exploration because I think that's probably a key core to all of the groups that will talk today. Look, this is getting finer print, and as I get older, it's actually even harder to read, but I'll let you guys deal with that. I always start my presentations, doesn't matter where I am, New York, London, not these days, but when I do get out there. But it's important to realize that safety is still the most important factor, even if you include part of the ESG. It's safety. We have to have people that go underground every day. We have 3 hard rock mines now, mining around about 1,000 meters on average. And that graph tells the story where everybody can go home after their roster to their families. We probably don't pay enough time these days because there's a lot of other issues that we have to deal with. But safety to Western Areas is part of our culture. It's part of what we think about every day. We don't have a big department. We actually have no group safety manager per se. We actually run these from the sites, and we expect our incumbent contractors like Ruck and Barminco, Mick, to do their duty for the personnel that we have, and we will look after the rest. But that graph tells it, and we think we're one of the best in class. Of course, Western Areas is known as being an independent nickel player. We are very focused on nickel, and as you'll go through the presentation, you'll see why. All of our current projects are nickel. But we do have a look at other metals in the base metal group that are aligned with the electrification sort of growth across the world, and you'll see a lot of people talking about that. We have no debt, cash at the bank, 20% of panoramic, and great project pipeline and growth. And that's why I'm saying that growth is where you want to be right now. As I mentioned, ESG, and Angela did a good spiel on that. I mean, at the end of the day, you do want to be in that low part of that graph. And I'll try and get that graph from Angela. But I think I'll have to pay about $25,000 I think, for that, the pleasure of that. But Angela, if you're listening, you know my email. It's a great, though, to see that why nickel sulphides is the means of getting Class 1 nickel into the market. And I think that is going to play a big role in our future. But look, environmental, social, and governance is now a key aspect of every company, and you will hear it in every presentation today, because that's what shareholders expect. And in Western Australia and in the broader Australia, you're in the right area for investment into the future. As I said, I'm not going to dwell too much on this, except that we are currently in the market. So with the Odysseus offtake, we've got a short-term 2-year, which only commences, funnily, in a year's time. And we've been blown off our feet by the response so far. It's actually a timing which I think, as we've just heard, things are looking very good up in Asia. Europe is coming into the market, and so is North America. So everybody wants a piece of the pie. And as you've heard, even as much as yesterday, a new MOU between Toyota, Panasonic, and BHP. And we only just recently heard about the Tesla deal as well. So things are changing. I actually put down there that Korea was moving faster than Japan, but maybe I'll have to rewrite my presentation. But what's happening is that everybody now is starting to move because they're realizing there's a shortage of product worldwide, including the nickel laterites up in Indonesia. And people get worried and bogged down with that, but things will play out, and there's plenty of room in the playground for everybody to have a share. But we are pushing forward, and we think that the new trend will be that contracts will move away from your typical smelter contracts and more into life of mine contracts, which is difficult for people like us because we are very, very driven by short-term smelter contracts. But I think that the demand going forward, we will see some new factories being built, and that will then flow back into the miners, not just Western areas. I think I won't dwell on this too much, but don't get too bogged down by Tsingshan coming out, and they do spoil the party now and again. Sometimes they create a great party, but sometimes they come back and spoil it. They are a big player. We knew them from 2012. We actually did business with them in Fujian. So we know them really well. Look, so all I can say is developing matte out of Indonesian laterite is hard. You still have to process it through a refinery. It's just cost plus, cost plus. So if you're worried, don't get too worried. And again, Angelo covered this off really well. The big players, CATL, LG Energy, and Panasonic are now starting to flex their muscles. CATL is a huge group. I did read the other day that CATL is actually market cap bigger than LG and Panasonic combined. So that graph you saw of China's growth in EV is really going to come into play. And when people start playing, and product for Japan and Korea in terms of matte for refining is coming mainly from toll treating in China, you can imagine fast forwarding 10 years when everybody wants a bit of that product for the precursors. I think Korea and Japan will change their views, and that's where we are wanting to start marketing our product. Growth. I love this graph because it shows we've got a strong pipeline from our current mines. Odysseus is going to be big, 160-odd thousand tons of nickel. And then we've got the feasibility studies of AM6, New Morning. And then not too far behind, we've got some great studies. And I'm going to dwell a little bit about Mount Good, which is something that we've neglected over the time. But now she's starting to come into the play. Of course, everybody wants good resources, and here I've highlighted some of ours. You can see we've got over sort of 700,000 tons of nickel, over 1.1%. Now, I know that people in this room regard Western areas, high grade, spotted quoll, flying fox, remember the old Jubilee mine, Cosmos 9%, Silver Swan 8%. But we've got to remember, though, that we're in a world area here, and the average of nickel mines or resources around the world is sub 1%. So we mustn't get too bogged down by evaluating our grades against what we used to have. The future world of nickel will actually, the demand of that will be to do with the fact that can you get nickel units? Can you get nickel sulphide concentrates? It won't be much what the grade is. So you'll see today, I guess the world moving forward will actually require any nickel products if you got them. This graph was published a couple of months ago, and really this all it's telling us is that we've got a minimum of 10 years just on reserves. There's no blue sky in here, there's no inferred. This is straightforward reserves on our current operations and our future Odysseus and EM6 operations. It doesn't even include new mornings. So that just tells you or shows you the caliber of the material or the resource and reserve that Western Areas has got in its group. This is my favorite topic, and if you go to the booth, you'll see this beautiful picture in the back of the booth. You know where we are. We're between Mount Keith and Leinster on the Wiluna Agnew Belt. It's prolific with nickel. Some of the best mines still going. Mount Keith still going. Perseverance. Cliffs is still going. Probably doing Twisted speech here, but very good infrastructure. Now we've got over 212,000 tons of nickel. But yeah, we're starting now with what I hope will keep you all excited. Odysseus is now starting to flex. We released to the market today, first ore. We bought this in 2015 from Glencore, and we've now started development rehabilitation in January 2019. And here we are on first ore. We'll stockpile that ore and we'll talk to our friends up the road whether they want to toll treat, or we'll just stockpile it waiting for the concentrator to be commissioned in November next year. EM6 is now in full feasibility and will be out shortly, and we'll integrate that mine plan with Odysseus. And of course, we've got that upside with Mount Good. Just on pre-production activities, and I'm a miner at heart, so please forgive me for the passion, but we've worked hard at dewatering, rehabilitation, which, don't ask the contractors, it's not their favorite. They like to drill and blast. But you can see the green has all been done, and we're actually on the ore in that Odysseus South ore body. But it's hard work, and I'd like to say thank you to RUC and to Baminco for working safely without an incident. The main shaft is the other market release today. We've actually hauled into surface. And if you want to see excitement in the office, when we were watching this hauling through by the minute, and everybody was on attention to let me know when that actual hauling occurred. So we've now reamed back 650 meters, 5.7 meter diameter, and that will be the beginning of our haulage shaft. And the winder house is really well advanced as well. Not a flying fox or a spotted quail ore face. This is more in your disseminated range, sort of in that 1 and 1.5%. It's just on the edge of the ore body, and then you can see us starting to stockpile the ore on surface. Now there's a picture that makes a lot of people very happy. Some people say, what the hell is it? It's actually the reamer head breaking back through the sacrificial slab after a whole 10 months of back reaming, wondering where the complaints about the rock being hard, gee whiz, Dan, you'll have to pay more money, and et cetera, et cetera. But putting all that aside, there we have it, spot on. We did a laser survey. The tolerance we gave the guys was 200 millimeters. That's this much, over 650 meters. We believe we're in 100 millimeters, that's 10 centimeters. And we're just completing a LiDAR three-dimensional survey as we speak. There is a video, but I couldn't load it in time. Otherwise, it would have been my presentation, because these are things that keep us awake, but this is done, job done, well done. And I'd like to thank everybody for a very safe execution. The shaft now would start stage 2. The rig that we use to pilot haul the first part will now move to the bottom area and start piloting the bottom 330 odd meters, and we'll start equipping the top part of the shaft. We're expecting that shaft to be fully commissioning with ore and waste around about April 2023. So just on the journey where we've come from, there's the headgear in Impala, the winder, new pump stations, Henderson Port, where we brought in our equipment over Christmas, big panic, COVID, South Africa, everything's on site. And there's a beautiful KPS power station, 10 megawatt hybrid. We're currently putting our gas, pressurizing our gas spur from APA, and we'll start converting those diesel sets into gas as well. There's the box cut where the head of you can see the reamer, and then there's a shot showing the winder house. If I'll show you a picture later on, and you'll think, hang on, is that still in Impala? No, it's actually at Odysseus. But they're clearing the bottom of the box cut because we're going to finish the civil works there. The sub-race, if anybody knows technical jargon in shaft sinking, it's the concrete area below the collar where all the services flow through. So that's next work. There's a picture of the portal. We're about to turn on those Agreco chillers, and we'll be putting cold air into the intake decline fresh air for summer to make sure that we've got the right temperatures down the mine. And there's an aerial photo of the actual KPS. That was actually the same stand area that Jubilee used and the same gas spur. I won't dwell too much on this, but obviously it's a very, very strong, lower CO2 emissions, less trucks. In fact, we're hoping to be running 2 probably hybrid or electric trucks. Mick, write that down. We'll be looking for those to shuttle ore around into the crusher station at the bottom of the shaft. But it's a no-brainer, lower operating costs. We do pay capital up front. M6 feasibility, as I said, on the go now. We would get help. We got held up with metallurgical test work. So any advice for anybody in laboratories in town, please increase your efficiency so that us miners and explorers can get more. You'll make more money and we'll be happier. But we did get held up in labs, but we're now onto it. It was well worth the wait. We increased our recoveries by 10%. And that's generally the layout that came out of the PFS. And we'll upgrade that and run that through into the Odysseus schedule round about, hopefully integration round about FY26 and FY27, and then the mill upgrade as well. I just want to touch now on some new stuff that we're going to come through. Below that Odysseus, we've got this super high grade. There's 2 intersections, 5.3 at 15% and 3.4 at 22%. The cuddy's ready. We start drilling in there to actually increase our confidence in that area and boost that resource. Mount Good, as I said, this is now just coming through scoping study. We've left it behind as we develop Odysseus and AM6, but this is now going to be pushed quite hard. This was anomaly 1 back in the day. It's over 300,000 tons of nickel, and we say, yeah, 0.6. What the hell, Dan? Well, with the right open pit mining methods, the hydrometallurgical probably processing route, this is actually going to come up, and we are pushing this now quite hard, especially in terms of talking to some key strategics. This will push nickel at Cosmos over 20 years, well into 2040, I think, would be that period, because we've already got enough reserves to take us into over 2030. Pity I won't be around, but anyway, we'll see. And just to push that on, we're going to start drilling, surface drilling. We've got the rig, I think. And we'll start drilling. We need more core. Our friends Xstrata basically sent all the core up to good old Canada, because that's where they were sending all of the concentrates from Odysseus, from Cosmos, all the way up through to Sudbury to fill up their smelters that were not being filled by their Sudbury mines. So we're going to change that, and we're going to be filling, hopefully, local smelters and new plants up in Asia. Look, I shouldn't be talking without Forrestania. That's been our cash flow. We've got some new projects. One of them, New Morning Daybreak, in feasibility. Pity the minister's left because I'm waiting for his permit, environmental permit, so I hope he's listening. We need to get permits through, one in Canberra because we've got some Eucalyptus stedmani, which is actually a federal protection. So we'll sort that out. But we've also started our SCATS heap leach project as well. I'll skip that one. When you've got low-grade material like SCATS from the mill, 1.5% nickel, we've just commissioned our first heap leach, and we've just pushed our first pregnant liquor through to the MREP plant, and we are currently producing nickel metal. I think we've done 1 ton so far. Heap leaching, you need a lot of patience, believe me. But if anybody wants to learn about bioheap, we've got the technology for you. And that's where it's going through into the back end of the precipitation plant. Exploration, as I said, we were founded from exploration back in the day with Julian and Terry Grammer and Terry Streeter. We think fondly of exploration, and we dedicate around about $17 million. Not like everybody, some more dollars from some of the groups today. But you can see we own quite a lot of areas, and we've been spending quite a lot of time, $6 million over at Western Gawler. We've now starting to develop a thought process around how that mineralization looks. And we've got around about 1 kilometer plus of strike length. We still need to find the pond where that economic mineralization is going to be, but I'm pretty confident my geologists are onto it. And then, of course, we've got Forrestania. Been drilling, exploring for probably best part of 20 years, using high size now to boost our knowledge. And we're surprised we're finding more and more information, a lot more structure. So we haven't given up there at all. And as I said, Forrestania is still going to be a core part of Western Areas for at least another 5-7 years. And of course, Cosmos, as I said, full of nickel and a great street address to spend good money. Well, I won't speak too much about Metal Hawk, so Will can talk about this. And we're not a JV earning on the discovery that they recently had. I don't know why, Will, but we can talk about that later on. But some great holdings and JVs with Metal Hawk. Very happy as a shareholder of Metal Hawk as well. And looking forward to hear from Will Bielman on their talk later on today. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much for being patient. I just ran over by 1 minute, which is quite rare for Dan. So thank you very much.